Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Endymion deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And this deck is an extremely fun pendulum deck that focuses around using spell counters to activate its effects, which is a really cool concept. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic. This card is a definite 3-up in the build that has a really cool pendulum effect that you're going to move 6 spell counters from your field to special summon this card from your pendulum zone. Then count the number of cards that you control that have a spell counter on them and destroy that many cards, up to that many cards on the field. And if you do, place spell counters on this card equal to the number of cards destroyed by this card's effect, which is a great ability to be able to board wipe the field with this awesome boss monster. And when it's in the monster zone, this card is actually a walking spell and trap negate, which is absolutely crazy. This card is a definite 3-of boss monster in the deck and is a really amazing card. We then play 3 copies of Servant of Endymion. This card is awesome as a 3-of in the deck and one of the most powerful cards in the deck, with the ability that each time a spell card is activated, you place a spell counter on this card when that spell resolves. It also has the ability to remove 3 spell counters from this card to special summon both this card from your pendulum zone and 1 monster from your deck with 1,000 or more attack points that you can place a spell counter on. And if you do, place 1 spell counter on each this card and that monster you special summon, which is a really cool ability to be able to summon out some amazing cards from your deck, especially like your copies of Jackal King, which is such a cool card to be able to summon off this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Reflection of Endymion. This card is a good 1-of in the deck, but you only really need a single copy of this card. And this card has a similar effect to your copy of Servant, with the ability each time a spell card is activated, you place a spell counter on this card, and you remove 3 spell counters from this card to special summon both this card from your pendulum zone and 1 monster from your hand that you can place a spell counter on, and then put a spell counter on both of those monsters, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Magister. Magister is just a good 1-of as well, just like your copy of Reflection. And this card is a really neat ability, just like your copy of Reflection and Servant, that every time a spell card is activated, you put a spell counter on this card. And similarly to both of those other cards, you move 3 spell counters from this card to special summon this card from your pendulum zone and 1 face-up monster from your X deck that you can place spell counters on, which is really cool about these 3 cards. They're very similar between the 3 with your scale abilities, that this card summons from deck, this card summons from hand, and this card summons from the X deck, which is such a cool thing about these different cards, being able to put cards on your side of the field while also putting themselves and generating spell counters. They're such good cards. We then play 3 copies of Magical Abductor. This card is a definite 3-of in the build and is such a cool card to be able to throw in the scale, because each time a spell card is activated, you put a spell counter on this card when that spell resolves, and you can actually take 3 spell counters from this card and then add 1 pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to be able to remove those cards, remove those spell counters, and then just add any pendulum monster you want from your deck to your hand, giving you so many different options for this card, which is so cool. We then play a single copy of Master Cerberus. Master Cerberus is also a really good boss monster. I did consider playing this card at 2, but I feel like 1 is totally fine because there's so many cool ways to get to this card, especially with cards like Abductor that can get to this card, which is just really, really nice. But it has a really cool ability that if you have no card in your other pendulum zone, you can destroy this card, and if you do, add 1 level 7 or lower mythical beast monster from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty cool ability to be able to get the exact card that you need, because we have 2 really good targets in the deck that this card can actually search. But it has a pretty cool monster effect as well if you do get it on your side of the field. And each time a spell card is activated, you actually place 2 spell counters on this card. And when that spell resolves, it cannot be destroyed while it has 4 or more spell counters are on your field. And once per turn, you can remove 4 spell counters from the field and then target 1 monster that your opponent controls, banish it face up, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to the banished monster's original attack until your opponent's end of turn, which is great. This card is such an awesome card to be able to put on your side of the field, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. We then play a single copy of Jackal King. Jackal King is great to put on your side of the field because each time a spell card is activated, you put 2 spell counters on this card. And once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can actually remove 2 spell counters from your field to negate the activation, and if you destroy that card, which is a great effect for this card to have. This card is great as a 1-of in the deck. You have so many cool ways to get to this card, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. We then play a single copy of Garuda. Garuda is really good in this deck as a 1-of. I only feel like, again, you need 1 copy of each of these cards, but this card is great because if you have no card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can actually target one other spell trap on the field and destroy both it and this card, which is fine to put this card in the extra because then you can just Pendulum Summon it out, which is super easy to do. This card is great in the deck. We then play a single copy of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. We are playing the Crowley package and the Spellbook package in the deck, which is why we're playing this card as a 1-of in the build, to be able to search out from the deck off the effect of Crowley. Plus, we don't have that many normal summons in the deck, so this card is a really good normal summon to be able to add a copy of a Spellbook card from your deck to your hand. For example, your copy of your Spellbook of Secret, and then grabbing your copy of Spellbook of Knowledge so you can grab 2, which is really cool. We then play 2 copies of Water Enchantress of the Temple. Water Enchantress is really good, and since we don't have a lot of normal summons in the deck, the Adventure package actually works really well in this deck. And this card is really amazing because it gets you to your copy of Fateful Adventure through your copy of Rite of Arameser, which is just such a cool thing that this card just gets you to your copy of your Rite of Arameser so you can get Fateful Adventure and then get a negate in the form of your copy of Wandering Griffin Rider. And this card is such a good card in the deck. We then play a single copy of Wandering Griffin Rider. This card is good in the deck as a 1-of because it's basically just a walking negate that we can search off our copy of our Fateful Adventure, which is just super, super good. We then play 2 copies of Magician's Souls. I feel like 2 copies is totally fine. This card works in a lot of decks, especially this one, because it's so easy to be able to use in this particular build to just instantly put it on your side of the field. And also it has a really cool ability that you can send up to 2 spells or traps from your hand or field to the grave and then draw that many cards, which is great to help you fix your scales or get rid of cards off the field to be able to draw additional cards so that you can keep playing the game. We then play just a single copy of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos is great because you can reveal this card in your hand to be able to grab your copy of Magician's Souls from your deck to your hand, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck, which is not that big of a deal, but it's really good to instantly get to your copy of Magician's Souls so that you can keep drawing in the deck and also help you link summon, which is really good because this card is basically like a free special summon. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Upstart Goblin. Upstart Goblin is a definite 1-of in the build because this card basically says draw a card. But with all of your Endymion cards and all your other different cards in this build that can hold spell counters, it also usually gives them a spell counter, which is really good because this card is basically like a free spell counter and a draw on your cards on the field, which is really good. We then also play a single copy of Into the Void, which is kind of like a second copy of Upstart Goblin, because usually in this deck, you're going to end with no cards in your hand. So this card is great to help you draw an additional card while also putting spell counters on all the cards on the field, because in your turn, you want to activate as many spell cards as possible to generate spell counters so that you can use your effects, which is really good, especially so you can summon out your copy of Endymion and just end the game. We then play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is great to be able to send your copy of Water Enchantress to the graveyard, which is why I just play 2 copies of Water Enchantress, because you can banish her from the grave to be able to get to your copy of Rite of Arameser. So I feel like this card is better than the 3rd copy of Water Enchantress, because it also gives you a spell that you can activate. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is great in this build because you can summon out Millenniumize or Restrict to protect your plays, and also it's a spell card. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good as well to be able to play in this deck because this card just negates hand traps and also it's a spell card. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is great because we have a really cool card that you can actually search out of the deck with this card, which is going to be your copy of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. Secret Village of the Spellcaster is insane because you're always going to have a spellcaster on the field, and being able to basically just shut down your opponent where they cannot activate spells is absolutely crazy. This card is really good in this deck as a 1-of, but you only really need a single copy because we draw so much in this build that you basically just activate this card, and while we control a spellcaster, our opponent cannot activate spells, but if we don't control a spellcaster, we cannot activate spells, but you're always going to have a spellcaster on the field. So this card is great in the build as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of Spellbook of Knowledge. Spellbook of Knowledge is like a draw 2, which is really good because you can send this card, or you can send to the graveyard either one spellcaster monster you control or one other spellbook card from your hand or face from field to be able to draw 2 cards, which is a great effect. We then play 2 copies of Spellbook of Secret. Spellbook of Secret as a 2-of is a really good thing in this deck because it lets you add a spellbook card from your deck to your hand. So it's really good to reveal off your copy of Crowley, reveal this card, Knowledge, and your copy of Magician to be able to grab one of those to your hand, which is really good. And also being able to use Spellbook of Secret to grab the other ones is really nice because you can actually go through an entire line, even without Crowley, to be able to activate Spellbook of Secret and then grab Knowledge and then actually activate this card to grab Magician, normal summon Magician, and then grab Knowledge, and then use Knowledge to draw 2, which is really, really good. You can drop one of these if you want to play another copy of Master Cerberus if you want to, which is something I was considering doing, was just playing 1 copy of Secret and playing 2 copies of Master Cerberus, which you can do if you want to, and just play 1 of each of the spellbook cards and 2 copies of Master Cerberus. We then play 2 copies of Rite of Arameser. Rite of Arameser as a 2-of in this build is totally fine because we have so many ways to get it out from our deck with our copy of Foolish Burial, Water Enchantress, and so many other like really easy ways to draw into it. But this card is great because it gets you an adventure token on your side of the field, and it also gets you Fateful Adventure, which is just absolutely amazing to be able to get into the adventure package in this build. We then play a single copy of Fateful Adventure. I feel like 1 is totally fine in this deck, but this card is amazing because it helps you get to your copy of Wandering Griffin Rider and also gets you your copy of Draco back, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Draco back. 1 copy of Draco back is really good because this card is a bounce with your adventure token, which is really nice. And with just 1 copy of Rite of Arameser or Foolish Burial, you can basically get to your copy of your adventure package and get 2 spells, which is really good because you're going to get your copy of Rite of Arameser to activate, then place this on the field, and then you basically get to your copy of Draco back to bounce cards, which is really, really good. I love that about this card. Like, this line is really good in this particular deck to be able to use because it gets you basically 3 cards out of the deck while also getting you a negate on your side of the field. So really like 4 cards, which is just really, really good. We then play 2 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is definitely a 2-of in the build because it helps us get to our copy of Illusion of Chaos, which is why we just play a single copy of this card in the build, because you can get to it with this so easily, reveal it and then put it back and then search it again with your other copy of Preparation, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Spell Power Mastery. Spell Power Mastery is basically the Rhoda for the deck. It lets you add an Endymion card from your deck to your hand. Then you can count the number of Spell Power Masteries on your side of the field or in your graveyard, and it actually lets you place that many spell counters among cards that you control that you can place a spell counter on, which is not only going to activate and then activate all of their effects to put spell counters on themselves, but then this card puts additional spell counters on those cards while also being a Rhoda for the exact Endymion card that you need, which is really good. Plus, with all the other cards as 1-ofs in the deck, this basically makes the 1-ofs 4-ofs and the 3-ofs 6-ofs in the deck because it's so easy to be able to get to this card. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Selene. I feel like 3 copies is the correct number for this deck because this card is so easy to like go through because it has a really cool ability. If this card is Link Summon, you place spell counters on this card equal to the number of spells on the field and in the graveyard, which is a really awesome thing because you're going to put a lot of spell counters on this card and it just instantly puts a bunch of spell counters on the field as soon as it's summoned, which is really good. And then while an Endymion card is on the field, your opponent cannot target this card with attacks, which is really good to be able to just throw this card on your side of the field and they cannot target it, and it's just going to constantly get you spell counters, which is just really, really good. And once per turn during your main phase, quick effect, you can reveal or you can move 3 spell counters from your side of the field to special summon a spellcaster monster from your hand or grave in defense position to a zone this card points to, which the zones are amazing for pendulum summoning because they're all 3 downward zones, which is really good. This card is one of the main cards you want to get on your side of the field because of the downwards arrows and because it generates so much advantage with the spell counters. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is just really good in this deck because it is a lot of Link monsters in the extract, so this card is really good at popping multiple cards on the field, and plus with Selene, it's super easy to climb into this card so you can get a really big Access Code to close out games. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is really good because it's a monster negate, and also it's very good with the link arrows in this particular build. One copy of Unicorn to spin stuff. One copy of Daybreaker, the Shining Magical Warrior. This card is really cool because it can actually pop cards on the field, which is really nice. Plus, it's really amazing to be able to play a retrain of Breaker, the Magical Warrior. But this card is great as a one-of in the build, plus it has 2 downwards arrows. We then play a single copy of Beyond the Pendulum. I feel like 1 is totally fine in this deck, but this card is really good at helping you search cards and also stepping into other link monsters like your copy of Salim. We then play a single copy of Crowley. Crowley's really good as a one-of because if this card is linked summon, you reveal 3 spellbook cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks 1 and adds it to your hand, and you shuffle the rest back in the deck, which is why we play 3 different spellbook cards in the deck with your copy of Magician, Knowledge, and Secret in this build, and hopefully you hit Magician or Secret and not Knowledge, because you'll be able to then search the other ones, which is really cool off of your copy of your Magician normal summon, or your copy of Secret, then searching Magician, and then normal summoning Magician to search out your copy of Knowledge, which is just really, really cool. This card also has a really cool effect that each turn, 1 level 5 or higher spellcaster monster can be normal summoned without tributing, which can come up every so often. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is really good because you make your copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn. We play a single copy of Cross Sheep because it does come up and it's really good in this particular build. I really like this card overall. We play a single copy of Artemis just in case. This card does help out a lot in the build. We then play a single copy of Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon so that we can summon out our copy of Odd Eye's Vortex Dragon off of its ability. And then finally, we play a single copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict. This card is amazing in the deck as a one-of because you can summon it off of Instant Fusion to guarantee a monster negate, which is really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun. If you guys have never played Endymion before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's really fun to be able to play, and it's just really cool how you can basically throw a bunch of spell cards that are generic spell cards in this deck, and they just work because they all give spell counters to your cards, which is really cool. Especially that we have Servant at 3. It just makes this deck really, really good. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.